There we go. That should be better. Everybody hear me now? Welcome into another YouTube live show. My fault that I forgot to check the audio there, but this is the beauty of StreamYard. This is the beauty of StreamYard. I can fix the sound as opposed to, excuse me, just the old YouTube setup. I would not be able to fix the sound like that. So anyway, we're ready to roll. I am here. It's been quite a day. Lots of podcasting going on, lots of content creation going on, working a full-time job, moving. So my world is pretty crazy right now, but let's have some fun tonight, shall we? We've got Iowa State and Texas coming up this weekend. We've got an Iowa State lineman talking some S to the Texas Longhorns. I saw that just before I came on here, and boy, do I love that. I enjoy that as a storyline. I also very much enjoy Oregon State and Wazzu getting a victory in court. Man, so happy for Oregon State and Wazzu to get a victory in court over the Pac-10, and it was funny to read about it. I'm going to read to you from Ross Dellinger today. I'm going to read to you from John Wilner today, and hearing their breakdown of like the arguments from the lawyers on both sides. I think it was Wilner who basically put it like, the Pac-2's lawyer was basing everything on facts, tangible things that had happened, and the departing 10's lawyer was basically going through like the definition of a phrase over and over again and trying to parse through what the definition of notice of withdrawal actually is. And it seemed like to the common man going into this, that was probably about where this lied, right? One side had a pretty good case. The other did not so much. So I'm happy there. There's going to be an appeal. I mean, with anything in court, like it'll take a while to actually fully get settled. But starting off on the right foot for sure are Oregon State and Wazzu. And then, of course, if you've been paying attention today, you know that there has been some controversy in the Big 12. It is about the tiebreaker procedure that the Big 12 clearly botched with the way that they had written it before the season. There is a lot of controversy over the fact that they've now changed it. They are saying it's a clarification. It is most definitely not, and we can debate whether or not the right outcome came to fruition. I would say that it did. Oklahoma State probably deserves to be the recipient in said tiebreaker scenario if it were to play out. But I got to be honest, I'm incredibly disappointed with how the Big 12 has handled it. Very, very Klevkovian, the way that the Big 12 handled this whole tiebreaker saga over the last few days. And I know that I went through and did a video on it yesterday. So if you watch that video, you get most of the gist, but there has been an update today because there was a call with athletic directors, and then there was supposed to be a statement from the Big 12. I mean, they did kind of give a statement. They didn't release it as an official statement from their accounts and everything. They gave it to a select few reporters. They did not answer my email specifically asking about the sentence in question. I even gave them a chance with an out saying, hey, is what you presented to the schools different than what was listed on the website? And there was just a typo on the website. I still got no response. So look, I'm not thrilled. I'm not thrilled with how the league has actually handled all of this. But anyway, we can break all of that down. Plus just the other games that are going on this weekend. Obviously, Sunflower Showdown. That's the other thing. Backdrop for all of this for your boy here. Biggest Sunflower Showdown since 1995. That was the last time that both K-State and Kansas were ranked going into this game. K-State won that game 41-7, by the way. So if we could channel those vibes, that would be wonderful. That was Bill Snyder v. Glenn Mason, I believe. Yeah, would have been Glenn Mason in 95. Bill Snyder v. Glenn Mason. Oklahoma State's got to go on the road to Houston. I'm seeing some chatter already in the chat from Oklahoma State fans about that. UCF Tech, I think, is a really interesting game. I don't know that Oklahoma and BYU will be an interesting game, but I certainly hope that it is. I would like for it to be, but I don't know that we're going to get that. Baylor TCU, speaking of controversies, how about this bluebonnet thing? The entire week. Seems like people are not thrilled to have that be the rivalry name that adorns Baylor and TCU. So we've got a lot going on today. You guys know, though, if you have been here before, you can control some of the content tonight, dictate where this thing goes, and you can do so by clicking the $ below the chat box. That will attach a donation to your chat, make it a super chat, pins it in a separate column for me, and ensures that you are making it on to the show tonight. So it's a way you can control the content, make your voice heard, and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 conference realignment, college hoops content on a week in, week out basis here on this channel. If you want to support the channel for a free 95 price, you can just give me one click. Please like the video. That would very much help me as well. If you could just like the video, leave a comment on the video in the comment section during or after agree, disagree, love me, hate me, whatever it is. All of that stuff helps with the YouTube algorithm. So I would appreciate it if you did that. And those are kind of the ground rules. John-Curse-4, if you'd like to support the channel on Venmo, if you're watching this after the fact, that is also something that you are more than welcome to do. And if you do leave your question or comment there, I will make sure to address it on the next show. So an easy way to, even if you are not able to participate live, it is an easy way to still be involved and active in the channel here. So we've got about 100 people in the chat already. I will not be able to monitor everything that's happening here, but if you want to be like Eric and submit a super chat, then you will make it on the show here tonight. So that is where we will start. What's up, Eric? Appreciate you, my friend. Eric says, by the way, I love the Bart Simpson with the OSU hat. Eric says it would be the most Oklahoma State thing ever to throw away a favorable ruling from the conference by losing to Houston or BYU. Yeah, I feel like a lot of fan bases have this kind of attitude. Like, I know K-State fans have been wallowing this week in another K-State rule. We're always getting screwed by these rules. I'm not doing so much of that. I'm just very disappointed in how the Big 12 has handled this. Because, I mean, frankly, the way that they're going to do the ruling here is the way that the rule probably should be. It just should have been very clearly written like that before the season. I don't understand. It's like the Big 12 ran this thing through ChatGPT and said, hey, pump out some tiebreaker rules for us. Either that or they enlisted the help of, I'm going to the same lines I used on the video the other day, guys, but either that or they enlisted the help of the local 9th grade English student to write it. I don't know. Let's go ahead and get to that since Eric brought it up, and we can knock that out of the way. Frankly, I'd kind of prefer to just do that anyway. I do have the specific language here to flash up on the screen for you in just a moment. But basically what happened is a tiebreaker scenario came up, and credit to Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman for being the first to dive deep into this. It was on Saturday night, supposedly, that he did this. So if you have what would be on paper a fairly realistic scenario where Texas, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and K-State all win out, they're all going to be favorites in every game that they have left on the schedule. If they all win out, you would have Texas obviously in first in the Big 12, and then a three-way tie for second between Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and K-State. Now, you would look at that and make sense of it and say, well, Oklahoma State beats both Oklahoma and K-State, so they should advance, right? Would make sense, but that's not how it was written in the procedures that were on the website. So it says head-to-head, parentheses, best cumulative win percentage in games among the tied teams would be the first step in deciding this, but not every team has played each other. So the next line says, if not, comma, every tied team has played each other, comma, go to step 2, which, if you're wondering why is there a comma after if not, is a great question. I have no idea. And that is why this whole thing has been a mess. This is how it reads. If not, every tied team has played each other, go to step 2. Okay, well, obviously, if you remove that first comma, if not every tied team has played each other, go to step 2. That seems to be clearly the sentence here. And that would mean if not every tied team has played each other, go to step 2. Step 2 is best record against next highest rated common opponent. In the scenario that we're playing out here where favorites are winning, it would be a combination of Kansas and Iowa State that would be tied there. So you would take the combined record against those two. K-State would be 2-0. The other schools would be 1-1. And that is why K-State would have advanced in that tiebreaker scenario. So Barry Trammell starts digging on this, and he looks at it and says, all right, well, I just want to clarify this. So he reaches out to the league, and this is what Barry Trammell said. I'm just going to read to you from Barry Trammell himself. On Saturday, the Big 12 confirmed to him that in that scenario, K-State would advance and would win that tiebreaker. So Trammell says, our exchange kept confusing me, but I eventually was told that because OU and K-State did not play each other, OSU's sweep of the Sooners and Wildcats was nullified. Seems silly, but at least I had confirmation. So that's Saturday. Then Monday, I was told by the Big 12 source that our Saturday night communication caused further discussion in the conference office, leading to the clarification, which is scheduled to be presented to the Big 12 athletic directors in a conference call Wednesday. And the clarification there would be Trammell is saying, well, now they came back and told me 2 days later, actually, we'll send Oklahoma State in that scenario. And the Big 12 tried to present it as a clarification rather than a flat out change, which, again, if you're reading the words on your screen, I am sorry, that is a rule change. That is not a clarification. That is a rule change, not a clarification. The other thing I don't like about this is They're doing that with Trammell. They're confirming it with Trammell and then saying, yeah, we'll have a call with the athletic directors tomorrow. They're going through the media before they're even talking to the ADs. They also leaked it to Brett McMurphy, Oklahoma State grad Brett McMurphy, I might add. They leaked it to Brett McMurphy, who put it out there too. So it's all in the news cycle before any of the athletic directors have had a chance to react to this. And the two that are really affected most by this are Gene Taylor at K-State and Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma. And I understand why there's not a lot of sympathy or people caring outside of Manhattan or Norman about this, because the bottom line is, like, if it's something that's going to make it more difficult for Oklahoma to get there, nobody is really going to care. But that's a I don't know if I should curse, man. I don't want these videos to get flagged. That's a pretty SE way to handle it, to just be leaking it to the media, not come out with any official statement, and then wait until the next day to actually talk to your athletic directors about it. I just know on the call, K-State tried to present their case, which would be pointing at the screen here, read the language that you guys wrote. K-State tried to present the case there, because if it is going to be a rule change, not a clarification, that is up then to the athletic directors. There would have to be a vote. And look, it sounds like there was not a lot of support in the room outside of Joe Castiglione for the point of view here of saying, hey, look what you a-holes wrote way back when. So it may have just been goes to a vote and everybody would have voted on through. But I'd be fine with that. Like, follow correct procedures. I'm okay with that. That's not what happened. The Big 12 has stuck to this line that it's a clarification. They have not been transparent. They never released an official statement. They've been using the media. They leaked stuff to McMurphy once again today, only responding to specific media with all of this and basically trying to make everybody feel stupid, saying no. Their statement today here, I've got it pulled up. Their statement today that they finally released said, there have been no changes to any rules regarding Big 12 football tiebreaker procedures, which were agreed upon prior to the season and went into effect in August of 2023. You're lying. You're gaslighting. I mean, it is what it is. That's just very disappointing. That's not great leadership. That's not a way you should be operating as a conference. That's very much George Kliavkov saying things and lying about it and being very weird about it. It's just frankly been really disappointing to me. I still love Brett Yormark. He's done great things for the league. There has been much more good than bad. I still agree that Oklahoma State should be the team that probably wins in that scenario. I would also say that there is at least somewhat of an argument for unbalanced schedules, that maybe not being the total be-all, end-all, in that Oklahoma State missed Texas. K-State had to play at Texas, and Oklahoma State also got the 4 newcomers on their schedule. But I don't think that that is a particularly strong argument, so I won't belabor that point. I'm fine with Oklahoma State getting in, but I am not fine with the Big 12 acting like this about it. Just stand up and say, hey, we made a mistake. These rules, we shouldn't have used ChatGPT to write out the tiebreaker procedures. These rules look stupid. We messed it up. We got to change this. The ADs were cool with it, so we changed it. We're making it right. That's what the league should do. That's called leadership. That is not running and hiding from a very ridiculous, stupid mistake. And so that has been my issue. And that is, I haven't even checked the chat yet. We'll see what all you guys are saying. You know, all the responses that I've gotten mainly on Twitter have been, oh, take off your kitty cat glasses here. K-State doesn't deserve to be in. Clearly it was just a mistake because Brett McMurphy says so. It's like, look, I'm not, the point here is not K-State v. Oklahoma State. The point here is the Big 12 screwed it up and they're lying and gaslighting about it here to everybody in the end. And that's pretty crappy. Like, I don't love to see that. And I thought they were better than that. Thought they were above that. And the other thing it does is if you're Oklahoma and you're sitting here, and I've been someone crapping on Oklahoma fans for doing this whole conspiracy theory that the Big 12's out to get them thing. I don't know, man. You operate like this with stuff like that, I can understand how people would come around and be a little skeptical of what you're doing. This is pretty shady. Like, it's pretty shady. So I don't love it. I don't love it. It is what it is. We're gonna hear from Snappy AJ here, another Oklahoma State fan. I appreciate you, Snappy AJ. Thank you for your support of the channel as always. Snappy AJ says, I'm an OSU alum, not thrilled with the talk, which is pointless if we don't win. Hoping ISU makes it even murkier. But I'm for any non-Oklahoma Texas champ. And I completely agree. Like, I mean, vehemently will root for Oklahoma State if they are in the title game. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, like those two fan bases, I feel a lot of kinship with as a K-State fan. Like, I've got nothing against the Pokes. I've got nothing against Oklahoma State fans. I just don't like the way that the league has actually handled this. And Snappy AJ, I'll be honest, as a K-State fan, I'm leery of what all this talk does too. Just how, I mean, the team's not paying any attention to it. I don't think it has any actual bearing on the games. But you're right, on either side, if you go out and lose this weekend, you're going to look pretty silly and have a lot of egg in your face, and there will definitely be tweets and people will make fun of you and all of that sort of thing. So I get it. I get why that would be a hesitation of yours with the way that all of this has gone down, because I'm feeling the same thing. I'm feeling the same thing on the K-State side of it. It will definitely suck if you lose one of the last two games and it all becomes pretty moot anyway. But I just, had to say my piece on that, to the point of like, I just want to make sure everybody understands what is at issue here with most people that are upset about this is the way that it was handled, the procedure in which it was handled. I didn't even get to there's more of this. The Big 12 at one point released a statement where they said, let me bring this up. This was to Brett McMurphy. There was a quote from the Big 12 source that said, "There's no change in our rules. Head-to-head results take precedence similar to industry standards." Okay, similar to industry standards. All you have to do is go to one of the other 5 Power 5 leagues, and you can find that the Pac-12 does not allow in a multi-team tie for head-to-head in this scenario to go through. They do exactly what the Big 12's rules say that they would do, if not for the comma that has murked everything up. The Pac-12 has the rule where if you have a multi-team tie and not everybody has played each other, you go to the next thing, which is highest record against, or best record against next highest common opponent. So it is quite literally not the industry standard. The Pac-12 is another Power 5 league that operates in the same way as the way in which yours was written. Frankly, it looks like the Big 12 had kind of copied the Pac-12's homework. They just didn't do a good job copy editing it. And so that's, again, another frustration to me. The Big 12 trying to just make everybody feel stupid, looks just, you stupid little peons, it doesn't matter, we're fine, no one will care. And a part of the frustration for me is that most of the reaction that I've seen is like, I don't think people really do. It doesn't seem like many of the ADs were very outraged by this or alarmed by this and what precedent it could set. Changing rules like this on the fly, or having rules this important and this consequential in the offseason being written this poorly and leaving so much up for interpretation. Didn't seem to be much concern there. Fans out there, just if your team's not in it, and I understand it, like if your team's not in it, you just don't care, whatever. It sounds like K-State fans are whining, whatever, yawn, screw you guys, forget about it. You're just being whiny because your team's not getting in. That just seems to be the reaction to me when, like, I don't, if the Pac-12 did this, I guess I'll put it this way. If the Pac-12 did this, we'd be crushing them and laughing and talking about how stupid this was, that they were acting this way. Like George Kliavkoff manning the ship and acting like George Kliavkoff, because frankly, that's how Yormark's operation has operated with this. We would be killing them for it. But, nobody really cares. The Big 12, whatever. We want to see Oklahoma State get there anyway. We'd rather see them win. Who cares if Oklahoma is going to be hurt a little bit by it in K-State's collateral damage, whatever. That's the attitude. I understand it. So honestly, the Big 12 probably ends up being right by this. They don't have to admit that they're actually wrong. The only people that will complain about it will be people like me, and that doesn't really matter in the end to them. So whatever, they move on. Life goes on. I'm sure that's what it is. But I've got a platform. I'm going to say my piece about it. So that's what I have to say about it. I think it's pretty Bush League. I think the Big 12 has been pretty Bush League with this one, and it makes me a little leery about what could happen in the future with this. It also is something that probably should fire some warning shots to other conferences here as we move into this era of like these massive conferences, these massive leagues that are going to have a lot of teams. You will wind up with a lot of ties. And these tiebreakers are going to need to be very clearly established. And you also have to think about what are the scenarios going to be with unbalanced schedules. And there will be people complaining every year about those sorts of things. And K-State has a minor argument there with the unbalanced schedule things, but not a major one. But you could very easily run into a situation where somebody will have a much better argument for it. And what are you going to do then? How are you going to handle the complaining and what comes from that? So I just think it's actually fairly important for a lot of places to pay attention to this. Namely, the Big 12 better pay attention to this. And look, I use ChatGPT 4.0, by the way, the paid version at work every single day. And if the Big 12 would like me to write their tiebreaker procedures through ChatGPT, I could do that. And then I will also run it through Grammarly and grammar and spell check it. I would be more than happy to do that. I will do it for free, in fact. I would do it for free. So somebody reach out to me, hit me up. It's JL Kurtz on Twitter. You can slide in the DMs. And hell, I already sent the email out to the Big 12 asking for clarification. So they know how to get in touch with me. I would be very happy to do this for free if they would like me to. Anyway, if you guys want to be a part of the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box to attach a donation to your chat, make it a super chat. That is how you can be a part of the show tonight and join in the festivities. Make your voice be heard, help control the content tonight, and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 conference realignment, college football, college basketball content on a regular basis here on this channel. I would also remind you, if you could like the video, I would much appreciate that. That is a totally free way to support the channel. And leave a comment in the comment section underneath that video. During or after, agree, disagree. If you hate everything that I just said, if you're going to call me a whiner, hey, whatever, man. Leave the comment. That helps stoke that YouTube fire for me, baby. Thank you very much. We've got that out of the way. Now we can talk about the Pac-2. Victory for the Pac-2. I'm laughing because I see the headline that I wrote on my note sheet. It just says victory with 2 exclamation marks. And it reminds me of, are there any Entourage fans out there? Remember Johnny Drama on the line in his TV show where he was just victory. That's what I think of when I see that. Shout out to Johnny Drama. Okay, so I'm going to read to you from Ross Dellinger here about the Pac-2 victory in court. Washington State and Oregon State scored a major victory off the field on Tuesday. A Washington County judge ruled in their favor, granting a preliminary injunction that gives the 2 schools control of Pac-12 governance and assets, an estimated $400 million this year. All this talk about the war chest, baby, the war chest, $400 million for Washington State and Oregon State. However, the ruling from Whitman County Judge Gary Leiby is stayed until at least Monday as attorneys for the departing 10 schools work to appeal the decision. As is the case with any legal ruling you ever get. It's like, right, can't celebrate too much because you know there's going to be an appeal coming and it's going to be long and drawn out. It says, depending on a timeline for the appeals process, the case could continue for months without a resolution. Leiby's ruling is a sign that the Cougars and Beavers are in position to win the case against the departing 10 Pac-12 programs over control of the league's decision-making. At the center of the case is control of more than $400 million this year in Pac-12 revenue from TV contracts, the Rose Bowl, and NCAA basketball tournament units. That revenue is normally distributed to each school, starting with installments in December. Each school is due about $35 to $40 million. So look, my stance on this the whole time has been, one, at the crux of the lawsuit was not just the money, it was control. You didn't want these 10 schools to have like voting rights to be able to vote, that they could take the money, dissolve the conference, whatever, screw over those other teams. That to me was the most important piece of it. But also along with that, obviously, is the pure financials of it. And my thought is, how much money are Oregon State and Washington State going to lose over the course of the next 10, 20 years, whatever it might be, however long you want to extrapolate that out, because these schools are leaving? Give them all the money. I don't care. Give them all the money. I want them to have every last little bit of it. And this is definitely a step in that direction. Even if it's, and I understand this part of the argument for the other 10, they're saying like, hey, whoa, wait, this is for this year, distributions from this year when we're still in the league. My thought would be, who cares? You guys are screwing them long term. You're going to take a little bath. You're going to take a little haircut now because you'll be making more money later. You're leaving for money. So let them keep the money while they stay and wallow as a conference of 2 schools. Anyway, a little bit more from Dellinger. Washington State and Oregon State now control those distribution rights, granting the schools the ability to use that revenue in different ways, including withholding it from those existing schools. So that sounds great, right? They could withhold it all. They could take all $400 million, but that's not really what is going to be the reality, because in making his ruling, Leiby describes this as a modified preliminary injunction. Quote, "This is not a shutout," he said, which means that the 10 departing schools should be treated in a fair manner. He does not believe that Washington State or Oregon State will make any decision to directly harm the 10 members. And if they do, the court will hear about it. He warned them. So it was basically a warning saying like, hey, man, you guys are going to get control of this money. We're not going to allow them to have the power, the voting rights as board members to dissolve the conference, take the money away from you. We have stopped that disaster scenario from happening here. but you also can't just take every last little penny and hoard it yourself. You can't just take it all. You've got to give them some kind of fair amount here. And I'm sure there's a lot of leeway and discussion on treat it in a fair manner, what that actually means. But if I were the Pac-2, I probably would not screw with that too much. I would try to come to some decision that's somewhat fair to not be back in court again. And obviously all of this is pending appeal still too. But according to the article, attorneys from the two sides, Washington State, Oregon State, and the Pac-12's departing members, argued for more than 2 hours. They made similar arguments laid out in multiple court filings over the last several months. We're going to get to a little bit more from John Wilner in detail about what was argued. But Dellinger says Washington State and Oregon State's control of so much cash could potentially assist their ultimate goal of preserving the Pac-12 and rebuilding the conference by plucking away teams from, for instance, the Mountain West. And that is something I would love to see too. Like, they deserve that opportunity to keep the Pac-12 branding. It's the best case scenario for them. And if they have money here to potentially help teams cover whatever it might be, exit fees, if you're bringing people over, just handle some of the expenses that would come from doing that. That is what should be happening here to allow them to have the strongest possible home moving forward. I think that's the other very big advantageous part of this. Dellinger says there is debate on what exactly the two schools will do with their governance powers and the millions in assets now at their disposal. It was at the center of the case Tuesday. An attorney arguing on behalf of the 10 departing schools said that OSU and WSU are asking for the league to give them the keys to the vehicle, quote, but we don't know where we're going. Well, how about this, Guy? The vehicle was just stolen from Oregon State and Washington State, leaving them with really nowhere to go. They don't have any vehicle to get them anywhere. So I would turn that analogy right back around on you. Your clients left them all high and dry. So Dellinger says, if given full control of this year's Pac-12 assets, would OSU and WSU strip all 10 other members of their revenue distribution? Their attorney says, quote, we aren't saying that they automatically lose their money. That's Eric McMichael, who is the attorney for Oregon State and Washington State. McMichael later said that Oregon State and Washington State have no secret plan on their future, but they are shackled to 10 people who have no interest in seeing this conference survive. All they want is to get every last dollar out of the Pac-12 before leaving. And that, I think, is ultimately the most fair thing that's been said here. That's pretty plainly what the situation is. They just want to get they want to have the best future they possibly can. They don't want to be tied to 10 people with voting interests that are so drastically different from theirs, where they don't have any stake, any vested interest in keeping that thing alive and keeping that thing going. So that's the breakdown from Ross Dellinger of what has happened here. I'm going to get to some notes from John Wilner in just a moment, but I have seen some super chats come rolling in. So let me make sure that I take care of all of those before we get there. And I do you know what? Hell with it, guys. I've been so frustrated with how the Big 12 handled itself with this tiebreaker thing. I'm just going to leave the verbiage up the whole show. You're going to get, if not every team, if not, I can't even read it. That's how poorly written this thing is. If not every tied team has played each other, go to step 2. We're going to leave that up for the whole show symbolically for the Big 12, because they did such a great job writing the procedures for the tiebreakers. We welcome in Alan. What's up, Alan? I appreciate you, Alan, as always. Big week, Alan. Alan says, kudos to Will Howard for setting the career touchdown record. Heard Jason Bean took reps today and should play in the Sunflower Showdown. Hope KU can go 10-3. Great basketball result last night. KU over UK, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Alan, yep. Hunter Dickinson was a beast. I keep wanting to say Hunter Mickelson, which I know will probably make Kansas fans laugh. Hunter Dickinson was a beast, had 20 and 20. A 2020 game against Kentucky. I'll be honest, I didn't see any of it last night. I've had too much going on this week, but I saw the score. Yeah, Will Howard, congratulations. All-time career passing touchdown leader at K-State after hitting 45 in the game last week. So very happy for him. I think one of the more underrated, underappreciated quarterbacks in K-State history, which, there are a lot of reasons for that with his career arc and always being in a quarterback battle. But the guy's won a Big 12 championship, thrown a ton of touchdown passes, and outside of his true freshman year where he got thrown into the fire way too early, he's 16-4 as a starter. So he's been good. He's been a really good quarterback for K-State, and he deserves his flowers. As far as the Kansas quarterback situation goes, I will give Lance Leipold and his entire coaching staff a lot of credit for being very, very good with the gamesmanship, very coy about what is happening with their quarterback situation. Because on Monday at Leipold's weekly press conference, he made it sound like he was fairly optimistic about Bean with a head injury being able to get out there. Then on Tuesday, he went on local radio here in Kansas City and said that Cole Ballard was probably the way that they were going to have to work towards going. And then today, Andy Kotelnicki, his offensive coordinator, did a press conference where he said that Jason Bean took a lot of reps in practice. And then I believe Lance Leipold's coach's show happened tonight, which is where I saw the last quote where he kind of reiterated that. Like, yeah, Bean was able to practice and took some reps there. So, I mean, I'm certainly anticipating Jason Bean playing at this point. Seems like all indications are that that is going to happen, which means that it should be a pretty good game. I think that's, at one point I saw the line ballooning up to like 9.5. I think now more like 7.5. That seems much closer to reality if we are believing that Jason Bean is going to play. I guess the one thing it seems like we have been able to discern is that it does not appear that Jalen Daniels stands any real chance of playing. It seems like that ship has sailed for the rest of the year. So enjoy the wheel, Alan. Enjoy the wheel. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to join you. A big part of that is that I am moving this weekend. So it's not just me not having the guts to go there after a miserable experience in Columbia earlier this year. It is also just a lot of life happening for me. So anyway, appreciate you, Alan. Thank you for being here as always. Delaric says Iowa wins this week, then more tiebreaker fun. Is that supposed to be Iowa State, or are we talking Big Ten West? Because honestly, I feel like it could be either. I know the Big Ten West standings are probably, I'm sure, very convoluted and crazy because you just, you throw 7 crappy teams together like that and jumble them all up, you're going to get a lot of parity. And that's generally what the Big Ten West has been. But Iowa State could definitely muck it up some more. I mean, they would drop Texas into that pool of teams with 2 league losses. They would stay with only 2 league losses themselves. And K-State's looking at playing some pretty big games here. Obviously, we know the stakes of the Kansas game, but then if Iowa State beats Texas, then Iowa State could be playing for a spot in the Big 12 championship game in Manhattan for Farmageddon the last week of the regular season. So hold on to your hats, folks. The November in the Big 12, there's a lot going on, and it will be fascinating to watch this all play out. It does seem like we are destined for some form of chaos after all the discussion about the tiebreaker, and this tiebreaker scenario being a scenario in which favorites would be winning. It does seem like we are destined for some wackiness and teams to be losing, and that whole scenario to get thrown off. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for your support of the channel. Daniel says, could the Leaving 10 file a case in California, since that is where Pac-12 HQ is located? Billable hours are still undefeated. I don't know. I will be honest. Definitely pretty good with the sports questions most of the time. Legal questions, I have no idea. I am very much out over my skis if I were to try to answer that. I don't know. I would think if it were the best option, if it were a plausible option for them, they probably would have already done it. I mean, I'm sure they have the money to pay for some pretty good legal representation, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Daniel. You might like John Wilner might be a better resource for that. He could probably tell you. I don't know. I'm not sure. Speaking of John Wilner, here's the rest of John Wilner's notes on what is happening with the Pac-2. I just pulled some of the highlights here. He went through like a 6-point synopsis. Here are the 6 things that I gleaned. He said he watched all 2.5 hours of this thing. He said there's no guarantee the request for an appeal will be granted. So we're talking about this appeal that would be coming from the 10 that just lost this ruling. He says there's no guarantee the request for an appeal will be granted or that the state's highest court will accept the case. It could be passed to an appellate court in Spokane, according to a person familiar with the Evergreen State's legal system. The hotline won't begin to guess just how the appeal process might unfold, but we know this: just as it's better to have the call on the field in your favor before it goes to the replay booth, so would you rather be the plaintiffs than the defendants at this point. His point being, hey, it's better for the Pac-2 here that they got this initial ruling. You would be in a worse spot trying to make the appeal as opposed to now trying to stand on your victory. And that seems to make sense to me. Again, I'm not looking at the advanced analytics of the legal system and how this usually works, so I couldn't tell you if that's always the case, but that seems to make some sense to me. It definitely does. Another note from John Wilner. He says, meanwhile, the Pac-12's attorney flopped and flailed with. Okay, so this is where he's talking about how how the two sides presented their cases. It says the Pac-12's attorney flopped and flailed with poor material. At one point, he argued that Washington State and Oregon State would be better off with the status quo with no board control. We burst out laughing at that suggestion. Yeah, I would love to know what the argument was behind that. You guys, what are you talking about? You're better off with no control over your future or the money or any of the assets, branding, et cetera, of the conference. You're better off. That sounds to me, it's like, did they get this attorney like well-versed in how sports work, like how athletics work? That seems like just such a wild take. Just such a wild thing to say about all that. Wilner says his performance perfectly reflected a conference office that's caught in the middle of this fight and a commissioner who, having overseen the collapse of a century-old college sports institution, has no authority or credibility. So he's basically saying very emblematic of George Kliavkoff, who has no authority or credibility, and a conference that's just caught in this terrible fight where nothing seems to be going very well for them. Honestly, it does. The way I'm reading about this attorney and everything that I was getting, particularly from Wilner, did make it seem like, hey, they found the George Kliavkoff of attorneys apparently here. That is what it seems like. The Pac-12 found the Pac-10, whatever, outgoing 10 found the George Kliavkoff of attorneys. So congratulations to them on that front. Another point from John Wilner. He says not all 10 outbound schools have taken the same approach to the lawsuit. According to a source, there are hardliners within the group that has prevented the two sides from reaching a settlement through mediation. This was a really interesting point that, like, Wilner, this is why, Daniel, I kind of directed you to Wilner. If you have legal questions, this is more like legal analysis, but he kind of digs down here, and it sounds like this will end up in some kind of settlement at some point. The article says, as the proceedings began Tuesday afternoon, Libby expressed disappointment that the factions could not agree on a division of the 2023-24 revenue and assets that satisfied both sides. Perhaps his ruling will prompt the hardliners to accept, for example, $25 to $30 million per campus in revenue distributions instead of the full share that would be $35 million. So that is basically making it out to say, so remember, the Pac-2 is supposed to be, they can't be vindictive and harmful. Forgetting the specific term they use. Let me see if I can pull that back up. They are not allowed to be, they're supposed to be treated in a fair manner. Okay. They've got to treat the 10 schools in a fair manner. Would giving them 25 to 30 million instead of 35 to 40 be a fair manner? I suppose that's up for debate, but that does seem relatively fair, at least in the ballpark. Not something that would probably draw a bunch of attention to get it back into to court there after the judge told them they had to be fair. Wilner says that would ensure the plaintiffs have cash to fortify their futures and give the defendants support for operations during their final year in the conference. So yeah, they could take a little bit of extra money off the top from everybody. Talking maybe like an extra $50 to $100 million there. And then you divide that by 2. So it'd be an extra $25 to $50 million per school. That still is a nice little chunk of change to help them out for a minute. And then Wilner closed by saying a settlement makes the most sense by far. As one source noted, this is basically a divorce hearing. It will come down to what the alimony payment is. Divorce hearing. Yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically that is basically what this is, a divorce hearing for the league. So I think to be determined, obviously, on the appeal, to be determined on if there is some kind of agreement that's going to be reached on how everything gets paid out there. So that's a pretty lengthy update on what is going on with the Pac-12 legal battles, and I'm sure there will be much more to come. Obviously, I will keep you abreast of that, keep you updated on that as we roll on here throughout the shows on the channel. Cyclone Steve says, what we know, if the Tide schools lose, it's over. That is true. That is very true, and that is something that is probably going to happen. I would certainly bet on that. I would take the field playing out versus that one specific tiebreaker scenario, the nation this week. That I think is a fair take to have on the situation. But once again, this is why I would reiterate that the reason that I got worked up about it, the reason that I was very frustrated by it, is not because of the likelihood of this specific scenario playing out or K-State. it's because of the way the league handled this when it didn't have to be like this. It didn't have to be some crazy big thing if they would have just admitted that they messed this up, but there was really no admission of that. So anyway, Cyclone Steve, you are obviously an Iowa State fan, and I want to get to what your offensive lineman was saying. This is Jared Hufford chirping a little bit about Texas coming into this game in Ames on Saturday night. I'm seeing this from Mark Friend. Mark Friend says, I asked Iowa State offensive lineman Jared Hufford about Texas coming to Ames one final time before leaving for the SEC. Hufford gave a spicy answer and then added some more heat when answering Travis Hines' follow-up question. So here's what Hufford said. He said, quote, it's going to be one heck of a farewell present. They're going to come in here on senior night in the dark. I don't think they really know what is going to be coming for them. We've beaten them 4 of the last 5 times they've been here. They don't have a good record here. Ever since I got here, it's been Iowa and Texas. That's kind of the thing. Horns down all the time. That program, much like Oklahoma, they get all the big 5-star recruits. They have all the nicest stuff in the world, and they think, they're don't stink. I messed that up. They think they're, don't stink. They're just humans, and that's how I see them. They're people that have such a high ego that need to be checked. Well, that's pretty strong, man. That's pretty strong. And I'm not saying that I really disagree. I mean, you've got a real country club attitude, country club program there in Texas. Probably not fair to say that about Oklahoma, but definitely fair to say that of Texas. They have lost 4 of 5 at Ames. This is 100% the type of game Texas would lose because they have not been a tough operation at all for a very long time. And when you're going to play a cold game in Ames at night in front of that crowd in what is a very tough place to play and not a super sexy opponent, that's like to a T, the type of game that Texas would lose. So it makes perfect sense. They've lost 80% of the time their last 5 trips down there. This Texas team, though, is a bit different. Now, they've been really, really messing around, jumping out on teams 3 straight times, 3 of 4. BYU was in there. 3 of their last 4, they've jumped way ahead and then had to hang on and win by 3 because they don't have the killer instinct to close people out. But they are at least winning the game. I do think it is objectively true that they are certainly much tougher than what their reputation would be that precedes them. But these words, as you might expect, they got picked up by Horn Sports on Twitter, and then Jatavion Sanders, Texas's very talented tight end, quote tweeted it and just said, bet. Basically, bring it on. So Texas has seen it. That's going to add a little bit of extra spice to the rivalry. If I were Iowa State, well, I support the guy's comments. I understand why he would say it. I probably would not have been giving Texas extra reason to be motivated just because I think there's always a decent chance that you get a very non-motivated Texas team playing one of these sorts of games. Like, they're not going to want to be there in the cold in Ames. I would not have given them more reason to be fired up and try to really bring it to you, especially when this team has shown more of a penchant for showing some toughness and figuring things out. I mean, hell, they won at Alabama fairly convincingly earlier this year too. So they're no stranger to tough environments. And I think I would not have poked the bear if I were Iowa State. But as a content guy, someone that's here doing a show about this and thinking about the game, I mean, I love it. I love it. I'm very much all for it. I almost picked we just did our 3-Mod podcast, the preview edition for Kansas. I almost picked Iowa State as my lock of the week to cover 7.5. They are plus 7.5 in the game. Came close, didn't do it. I actually picked a different game for that one. I picked Tech minus 2.5 because I feel like UCF is just coming off such a high, and Tech has bowl eligibility out in front of them that playing at home, that would be the difference. And Tech can easily, if they're going to win the game, they're probably going to win it by a field goal or more. But Texas, Iowa State, I definitely could see Iowa State covering. I don't know if I see them winning. Texas has been good at just hanging on. And yes, that is dangerous. They're playing with fire for sure. But I feel a bit burned by the mystique of Jack Trice Stadium at night after Kansas won there the other day and after K-State won there last year in a night game early in conference play, 2 games that Iowa State fans were definitely up for. I wonder if some of that mystique in the night game here, the night game spot at Jack Trice, is dwindling. I hope it's not, because obviously I would love to see Texas lose the game. I mean, hell yeah. I would love to see Texas lose the game. Bring them down. But I would pick Texas in a close game. I think that's kind of my feeling on this one here, especially if you're going to keep throwing them red meat, man. They've got a hard enough time being motivated. Don't make it easier on them. Do not make it easier on them. But what's done is done, and Iowa State will now have to go back that play up out there on the field. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Cat fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne. Daniel says, I don't like how the Big 12 is doing this tiebreaker thing, but the Cats just need to win their last 2 games and let the chips fall where they may. Glad the Sunflower Showdown is more primetime. Go Cats. Hey, Daniel, you are correct. That is the correct attitude to have, and I probably got sucked into the frustration a little bit more than I should have with all of this, mainly because, yes, it would look very silly if you go out and lose this game or lose next week to Iowa State. And these are tough games coming up, both of them, very tough games coming up for K-State, that they would have to take care of some serious business to even put that tiebreaker scenario into action where it would be a thing. So I like your perspective. Your head is certainly in the right place as far as that goes. I would slightly disagree on the Sunflower Showdown in primetime. Like, the only reason I say that is because I just think as a road team, you've got a better chance if it's 11 a.m., sleepier crowd, not quite as juiced up. It does seem like there's something about the night game environment that amps it up even just another level. So I didn't love that because, I think this will be the toughest crowd K-State's played in front of all year. And I've got all the respect in the world for Boone Pickens, and K-State played a Friday night game there. Texas, not so much respect for that. It's a lot of people, but it's kind of wine and cheese. It's not a super intense atmosphere. I've been there like 5 times. It's just not. And then, Mizzou was solid. I was there. That was pretty good. But I think Kansas, with the venom that they've had with the buildup this entire year being about beating K-State this year, and now no Big 12 championship game hopes, like this is the season. So I think it's going to be one rowdy atmosphere, and having to deal with that at night as opposed to 11 a.m., I think makes it even just a little bit trickier. So that's the only reason I would disagree. But if the point is, like, in general, the game is important enough to be in prime time, then sure. Although it really kind of missed out on Big Noon. A lot of people figured it might be the Big Noon game on Fox, which I would have definitely taken from an exposure standpoint. That's a lot better than being a night game on FS1. I mean, way more people would see you. But instead, you lost out to Fox trying to grift off this Jim Harbaugh storyline. Instead, you got Maryland and Michigan. So congratulations to everybody. We all lose. I would give a nice hearty congratulator to all of us with the fact that instead on Big Noon, we get Maryland and Michigan. But Daniel, I appreciate you being here. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate your support of the channel. Love hearing your thoughts. And thank you. I appreciate it. This is going to be your 5 to 10 minute warning here. If you've got something that you want to get in, now is the time. Click the $ below the chat box to make it a super chat. You'll attach a donation to your chat, pins it in a separate column for me. We've got over 150 people in here. I cannot keep up with the regular chat. So if you want to be a part of it, get your chat in at the buzzer here by clicking the $ below the chat box. Also, if you could like the video, another reminder to do that. I would much, much, much appreciate that. If you would do that, leave a comment in the comment section of the video. That definitely helps as well. All of it with the YouTube algorithm. And if you are picking up on this after the fact, you can support the channel on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 in order to do that. MJ Allen's in here. MJ Allen, I figured you might respond to that. Our resident Texas fan, MJ Allen says, I'm glad the Iowa State player said it. Good luck with Tavondre Sweat, young man. Hook 'em. Q Kelsey's girlfriend. Haters gonna hate. Shake it off. MJ Allen, that is a strong super chat, man. Well done. That was good. First of all, good luck with Tavondre Sweat is true. That guy is a load. I mean, I want to see that guy never again after the K-State game. That is not somebody you want to mess with. And then the Taylor Swift reference, but a Taylor Swift reference by calling her Travis Kelsey's girlfriend. That is funny. And also good reference. Haters going to hate. Shake it off. Haters are hating, MJ Allen. We'll see if your Longhorns can get it done through that. But great energy, great zeal that you brought. Worthy. Match the Iowa State energy with your own energy there. I like it. I like it. See if I can give you a couple quick thoughts on the rest of the Big 12 schedule. Oklahoma, BYU, that 24.5 is such a huge number, but man, BYU just looks lifeless. I don't know if the offense can score enough to keep it within 25. I just don't love what I'm seeing there at all. BYU's got both Oklahoma schools to close the year here with a 5-5 record. Lost 3 straight already. Things are not trending in the right direction there. I would be pretty surprised if that game is competitive, even as relatively down on Oklahoma as I am compared to what some would think. West Virginia, Cincinnati. Boy, I mean, I would hope West Virginia rebounds enough to cover 6.5 at home there. They probably should, but it's the 1:30 ESPN Plus game. It's not going to be a ton of excitement there. You really took it on the chin last week at Oklahoma to kill Big 12 title hopes. We'll see how West Virginia responds. I think that to me is kind of like an attitude game for West Virginia. Since he got a huge win last week, maybe that will bolster their confidence a little bit after knocking off Houston. 2:30, another ESPN Plus game. Crazy to see, how far this matchup has fallen. Baylor and TCU. Think about the Arp Riles, Gary Patterson battles back in the day, and now we're sitting here with the two teams in combined 7-13 and 2-10 in the league. But TCU a 13-point favorite. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I just saw Baylor up close and personal. They did not look very good. But I have not trusted TCU to do much all year. And outside of the one game where they just randomly blitzkrieged BYU with Josh Hoover, the freshman quarterback, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to trust TCU to do something like that. I'd probably just take the points. It's also a rivalry game. I'd probably just take the points in that. But I also wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole if I had the choice. Oklahoma State, Houston. I mean, outside of the game I'm going to be watching, K-State KU might be the most intriguing game of the day because I mean, if you're Oklahoma State, like, how do you respond after that? How do you respond after that? Both teams with super disappointing efforts last week. Houston didn't get 40-balled, so not as disappointing, obviously, as what happened to Oklahoma State. I mean, it's about as wild a Big 12 result as I've seen in, I don't know, years. And now Oklahoma State has to try to go on the road again and regroup. Yes, it is a bottom 4 team in the Big 12. Yes, it is one of the 4 newcomers. But Houston actually, at home, they damn near beat Texas. They did beat West Virginia. Yes, I realize on a Hail Mary, but that means that they were right in the game. They played that game very close and then gave themselves the chance at the end. Like, Houston is capable here. I don't think they're consistent. I don't think they have enough to be a bowl team, but they are capable of winning this game if Oklahoma State shows up in anywhere close to the form that they displayed on Saturday in Orlando. So I would be leery of that if I were an Oklahoma State fan. UCF Texas Tech, I already told you there, like Tech minus 2.5. That is my lock of the week. I feel pretty good about that. Nothing against UCF at all. I feel bad for UCF that the John Rice Plumlee injury happened. I think they probably have another win or two if he wouldn't have gotten hurt. But Texas Tech has also dealt with quarterback injuries, so you're not going to get much sympathy from them. UCF, on the opposite side of that Oklahoma State thing, this is where they can turn around and do what Oklahoma State did the week before. Get real high and mighty off the huge win that gives your program a lot of momentum, and then you come back out and lay an egg. I kind of get that sort of a feeling from UCF in that game. And Texas, Iowa State, I think we already talked about that, right? I said Texas close win there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about all I've got, guys. I appreciate all of you being here. Hopefully we have another really, really solid, really fun week of Big 12 football. I'm sure wild things will happen. We'll probably look back on this on Sunday and be like, what? That was really stupid that we did everything last week, all the consternation about the tiebreaker rule, because that's not even going to matter at all. Very well possible and probably the most likely result this weekend. But we'll see. We'll see. Tell all your friends about the channel, word of mouth, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, wherever it is you're on social media. If you're talking to the kids on TikTok, let them know about the channel. Let's continue to grow this thing. Seen a lot of growth here lately. Thank you, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. But that's been great. And if you are new here, the live shows Wednesdays and Sundays are awesome, as you can see if you've hung out for the chat tonight. But I'm also giving you content fairly regularly these days in between during the week as well. So make sure you're subscribed if you have not subscribed yet. We're always talking realignment. We're always talking college football and some college basketball. If you could like the video on your way out the door, I would much appreciate that as well. Leave a comment in the comment section of the video. That's an easy way to help support as well and help me with that YouTube algorithm. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to support the channel that way. If you did not catch the show live, And I think that is it. We are done. I will, this disclaimer again, I am moving this weekend with a lot of that happening on Sunday. I anticipate as of right now that I will be able to get set up and do the show on Sunday night, but who knows? There could be a snafu. We will see. We'll make sure. I've got to make sure that I get the internet rocking and rolling at my new place, which it should be. So anyway, just bear with me. I will do everything in my power to make it happen on Sunday, but there is a slight chance that could get kicked over to Monday. But I'll keep you updated. Thank you guys for being here. Much appreciated as always. And I will talk to you all soon.